Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I got these two old Games Workshop Dwarf bolt throwers stripped down, repainted and ready to join my Oathmark Dwarf army.
Scruffy Crow.
Alright, so I found two of these cheaply on eBay recently. The first one turned up today. I think it is mostly complete. This one was the cheaper one of the two. And we have a recognisable crossbow, missing the winding sort of mechanism there on the side. But I think everything else is there, and only one crew. So this has seen a lot better days. I don't think it's been undercoated before someone's tried to paint it. There's some big crusty bits of glue all over the place. And I've already peeled a couple off, like on his helmet here. But in plenty of places there were still folded bits of flash and things. It was never fully cleaned up there. Look, there's a sort of mould line, big flash bit there. That'll need to come off. So it was never fully cleaned up in the first place, but already looking at it, look at these little details. These little dwarf faces down the side. I think this has got potential to be a really nice model. I've never actually seen one of these before in the flesh. So I'm actually just going to put this aside and wait for the second one. And now a couple of days later, my other one has arrived. So this one's obviously a lot more complete. We've got all three crew members quaintly flocked right around the edges of the base. All looking a bit chipped and worse for wear. We've also, this is a lot more solidly built. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to get these wheels off without damaging them. And it's got the turner, which is the important bit. But it has suffered a bit of damage to the top here. Look at these side by side. This one's got little bolt sections, whereas these ones have been, I don't know, cut or filed off. Almost looks like they've been cut off with snips, which is weird. But no worries, we can put them back. So I've dug out some bases for these. So we've got some 15mm bases that'll take the catapults, and all the rest of the dwarves in this army, what's going to be for my Oathmark army, are all on 50mm bases. So I found these ones. They're not original GW ones like these ones are. This is kind of the wrong size base anyway. So I'll be putting these guys on 50mm bases. And a dwarf-like catapult has 3 crew. So I'm going to have to find a couple of extra crew from somewhere. Oh, I'm not on my normal desk today. I'm sorting through these bits. So as I said, we've got the 3 from one from the other. And I've taken them all off their bases, and I'm separating out the plastic parts. I had to dig around my bits box as well and found 2 sets of these matching wheels. I preferred this look. I think it goes better with the sort of old Dark Age look, and they're the same size, so it shouldn't really affect the way it works. But I'll clean them up at some point. So I'm going to try and... So now I have to try and separate these parts out. Now this is fairly... There we go. It's well stuck together, this. Okay, so now I've got this old salsa jar. And I'm going to pop the metal bits in there. And I've got some of this acetone-free nail varnish remover. I prefer using the acetone-free stuff. It seems to work better, and it's a little bit less sort of noxious. Still not great for you though. I'd probably still use it in a ventilated area and put gloves on. All that good stuff. So I'll pop that in there. And as you can see at this point, it is pretty much clear. And that will change in the next couple of hours. In fact, if anything, it's already taken on a bit of a yellow tint since we put it in there. Look at that, there's already flakes of paint lifting off these already. This bottom one here is already, look, it's all wrinkled up, and it's literally only been there a few seconds. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, and although the paint is literally just coming straight off, we can get down to bare metal. I'm not even brushing this or anything, that's just peeling straight off. I checked a second ago, and the glue is still holding firm. Now, in my experience, it takes about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours for the glue to start to really give way, completely go mushy. So I'll leave these in there overnight. At some point tomorrow we'll give these a brush down and see what we've got. So I've noticed that one catapult, the more complete one, is completely just stripping itself at this point. The other one is being a little bit more stubborn. Okay, so I am sat on my kitchen floor right now, and I've been cleaning down these parts. So this is one of them, and that's come good as new. We've got a couple of the dwarves as well. So you should probably wear gloves before touching this stuff. But yeah, even the one that was having more trouble coming off, the paint's all sort of furred up. And it only takes a little bit of a brush just to get that completely clean. Look at the paint on that. That's, I said before, that was sort of coming off by itself. So with minimal pressure, there we go. So with a little bit of a scrub, that'll be good as new. Okay, this guy just arrived. He was another absolute bargain. Appears to be painted in enamels. And he's from the older bolt thrower crew, like one of the other guys I've got. So stick him in the goo and add him to the pile. Here's the last guy I bought all cleaned up. Pretty much good as new. There's a few little flecks here and there, but nothing that's going to affect the repaint. Between him and the guy I picked up from Relpatha, and a couple of Dwarf engineers that I picked up, I have far too many crew now for these 2 catapults. So I'm still missing a whole set, because we've got two from the correct set, another one from the correct set, 2 here from the even older catapult. One of these was already bundled in with that. I think we're probably going to put the Relpatha guy aside, unfortunately, and have the engineer, one of the guys holding a bolt and a magnifying glass, a bolt, a magnifying glass, and this other spearman. 2 nice, interesting little groups there. I don't seem to be able to stop picking stuff up for this project, so it's not working out too cheap. So these, I think, averaged about a tenner each. I spent another tenner, and I picked up another incomplete set. So we've got another bow. So this was already stripped, possibly not to my exacting standards. Still pretty good. However, we do have a new top, so we can replace this slightly damaged one. We also have another winding wheel. Most interestingly, it comes with 2 of these. Now, I didn't really think I was going to get hold of a pair of these, but I did. So these are the bit that's most often missing from this kit. And these sit just on here. So do you know what? That's why I did this. This is why I picked up this 3rd set, because these are still working out cheaper than the buy it nows on these guys, and I'm getting the proper bolt in there as well. So that's made me quite happy. So now for the fun bit. Let's get all this stuck together. Okay, before I jump too far ahead, I'm going to take my needle file, knife and emery board here, and we're going to get these guys cleaned up, because there is whole bunches of mould lines here and there, and in some places there's even some little bits of flash. All the dwarfs I'm going to use have all been glued down to these 25mm bases now, and I've had to go gaps filled. What I'll do is I'm going to paint these up. I'm not going to document that because I think you've seen me paint enough dwarves, and I'm just going to do it the exact same way, same colours, everything. I've also glued the wheels on, so that was a pretty straightforward bit. I've made sure where they were used before and they've been glued down to put that to the bottom. Next stage is going to be to glue the bows on. Now, I've looked at all the other wheels as well, and they're all about the same size. So I don't really understand how this model was designed this way. But it's very close there. This bow's almost resting on the wheels. I had a few thoughts about how I was going to raise these up. I think what I'm actually going to do is just going to put a little chunk of green stuff in there and get them at the right angle. Before we do that, I'm going to get everything else glued up. Okay, I'm prepping to paint these now. And that is my green stuff there. All I've done is I've taken a file and I've just removed the excess from the bottom here and the sides. But as you can see, this is a much shallower notch now. Okay, so after my standard 2-stage undercoat, I've got these guys looking pretty cool. I love this stage because it pulls a sort of random model into one nice solid thing for me. I'm going to start off the way I do most of my wood and flesh, weirdly enough, with this Idran flesh. I'm going to use a relatively big brush, but small enough that I can still get in all the holes. I'm just going to go straight out of the pot. And my aim here is to basically cover anything wood with a layer of this. And this relatively big soft brush should let me get into all the gaps and nooks and crannies, but still lay down quite a thin, even layer. Okay, so after the base coat of Idran flesh, I've given them both a wash down with some Magrex Earthshade. This isn't the way I normally do it. I normally do the Zandri Dust and then the Magrex Earthshade for wood. But after my happy accident with my Barbarian Ballistas a few videos ago, I'm going to try and do it this way again, and hopefully it'll come out just as good. Okay, so we're using the Zandri Dust and a fairly big brush to pick up some of the details and take us from there to here. And I think that's pretty much where I'm going to leave the wood. Still pretty dark, but I'm pretty happy with that came out for the most part. I'm going to do a little bit more work on the bow arms to make them stand out a little bit. Okay, next up we're going to go in with this pig iron, and that's going to be all the strapping and sort of bolts, a lot of the details, all of this rings down here. Probably not the little dwarven faces, I think I'll probably do those in gold, but pretty much everything else. So I think this is going to bring out a lot of detail in the model. Once I've done with the metal in the pig iron, I'll give it all a wash with the Nuln Oil, which takes it down to this sort of shade we've got on this guy's helmet. Okay, so here's all the metals on them prior to the wash. It took quite a bit of time actually to go around and fill in all these little details, but I'm pretty happy where they look at the moment. Mostly just the pig iron and then with a few little dots of gold here and there. Okay, so the wash is dried and I'm pretty happy the way that's come out. It's brought all the details out the gold bit and dulled it down a bit and sort of aged that metal for me quite nicely. I've also gone in with some dark sand on the bowstrings and a bit of this Celestia Grey on the fletchings here. And I think that's all the base colours down. Okay, so the fletchings have had a little highlight. So now I'm going to take some of the Earthshade again. And I'm just going to use this to get out the sort of contrast in the bowstring. It takes from a flat colour that I quite like to something with a bit of depth. We can get that in there as well. Sort of neaten up that little bit. And it'll help put some little separating lines in between the bowstring and the wood as well. Okay, so now that's dry. I think I've only got one last bit to do. That's going to be go over all the metal parts that are looking quite dull down and grey at the moment with some of this quicksilver. Now less is more with this stage. Literally you're going to give some highlights on the most raised parts, and then it's going to be edge highlights around the edges of the metal, just to kind of show some wear and just the very little details. Okay, so that's the sort of effect we're going for. I thoroughly enjoy a step like this. I think it's really nice, and it, you know, just takes the sort of flat colours and really makes them come alive, I think. Okay, I think with both of these, I've got a paint job I'm happy with. Simple and effective and fairly clean. So next up I'm going to paint the bases. So I've already done that with the crew. Just paint them completely black, and then that'll give me something to put the basing material on. Okay, so one of the last things to do is I'm going to use this fast drying basing glue, and I'm going to use my Luke's APS Badlands, which is going to cover these bases. You can use this straight out of the bottle, and there. An old cheap paintbrush. We want this sort of to be about 1 millimetre thick. We want it quite thick all over, so it looks like far too much. And unlike PVA, this doesn't ever sort of level itself. It kind of just stays where you push it, which is sometimes kind of good because it doesn't drip too bad, but at the same time it's a little bit annoying when you're trying to cover a large area like this. So this is the Badlands basing mix. I'm going to start by picking up a few of these bigger rocks and bits of grass and just sort of pouring them on sort of individually. And then I'm going to go with just a more general handful, and then eventually I'm just going to I'm going to bury it. And I'll repeat that for all of these guys as well. Okay, with the rest of the model marinating in the sand, this guy just turned up in the post. So quick shout out to Simon from the Oldhammer Trading Group, who traded me this for a Dwarf engineer I didn't need. That gives me one full set of the original crew. I started editing this video, and then I realised that I hadn't painted these winding bits here, the springs. So I'm just going to do them in my leather colour, because I've not really used that across here. But it's a colour that gets used quite a lot in my army. Trying to give it a bit of a leather sort of look, just to differentiate from the wood around the sides. And then predictably a Agrax Earthshade wash, just to bring out those lines again. But that's it, this time we're finished. And I'm really happy with these come out there. Nice smart little ballista. They'll be used as light catapults in my Oathmark Dwarf army. I came up with the idea of using these as light catapults before Oathbreakers came out, and I read it and realised that I had ballistas in there, so ballistas now are a thing in Oathmark. But hopefully no one will mind that my light catapults are on slightly too short bases and are ballistas. I still think they fit perfectly well rules wise. I said we've got one complete set, so that's everything including the bow and all three of the correct crew, and then another set, so the ballista's all there, but we've got two of the older crew from the previous edition, which are also quite sweet little models. Obviously these dwarves don't fit very well necessarily with the rest of my army. They are all a bit shorter and squatter than the EM4 dwarves and the very similar Oathmark dwarves, but because they'll only be knocking around with these war machines, it shouldn't matter too much. As I said, I've painted them all the same schemes and with the same paints, so they should still gel together fairly nicely as an army. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments, maybe subscribe for more, and as ever, thanks for watching, bye!